Here, you want the pillow behind your butt?
What's up guys, Steffi Cohen. I'm here with Hayden Bowe and Alex Uslar, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Hybrid Powerlifting program and some of the details and answer some questions that you might have when you join. So you join Hybrid Powerlifting, you might be asking yourself, now what? What should you expect? How are the workouts laid out? How long are the blocks? How long does the program last? All these questions we're going to be talking about. The first point I really wanted to address is one that is of main concern to a lot of people, and that is the concern of having a program that's not customized. So some people might have the question of if the program is templated, is it right for you? And the answer is simple. The basis of the program is going to be focused around squats, bench, and deadlifts. The main difference between a customized program and a template is that the focus on accessory exercise and overall volume and intensity. In a customized program, you would do exercises that are most specific to your area of weakness. But since our templates and hybrid run 365 days per year, we'll be doing different blocks that target different areas to leave no stones unturned. So Hayden, you wrote the first 12 weeks of the Hybrid Powerlifting program. Can you tell us a little bit more about what people should expect in those first 12 weeks and
Sure.
how the program is laid out?
Yeah, so the first 12 weeks of the program are really based off of your own abilities. So it's a lot of percentage work, and it's an overreaching program. So it starts off at comfortable weight, builds up over the course of the cycle, so that you're really pushing yourself by the end. And the goal of those training cycles is that you'll get an overcompensation effect. So when you go to test your maxes, you'll have a higher work capacity and a higher strength output once we go through a deload program and have your mock meet.
When is the mock meet?
So we have mock meets in week 5 on day 7 and week 11, day 7. And then after that, we're going to do a hypertrophy cycle, which Alex wrote.
Yeah, so the hypertrophy cycle is very different from the first peaking block. A lot of people, when they get into that, they're like, holy crap, this is really hard. And some people, will see complain about like, oh, my performance doesn't feel the same. I don't feel how I felt in that overreaching, squat program. I don't feel like I can put 90% of my back and rep it. And you don't in that block, because the goal of hypertrophy block is just building overall muscle mass, building hypertrophy of the muscle. Then we can go into another peaking block and make that muscle as strong as possible. But in the hypertrophy block, still the main focus being squat, bench, deadlift. The frequency is a lot lower. You're only squatting twice a week, deadlifting once a week, as opposed to the peaking block, you squat four times a week. Yeah,
benching 3.
Yeah.
And deadlift 2 to 3.
Right. So even though the frequency goes down dramatically, the overall volume is a lot higher. Like I believe by like the 6th or 7th week of it, you're doing something like 6 sets of 8 on your main movement of squat, bench, deadlift, whatever it is. So in that cycle, we're trying to build new quality mass to then get strong later in another peaking cycle.
Would you consider then that phase to be kind of like an off season?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely an off-season phase. You're not going to run a hypertrophy phase like that going into a competition just because you're never going to have above like 75, 80% on your back. And if you try to then go into maxing out, your body's not going to be primed for moving those heavier loads, and you're just kind of going to feel like crap. People will complain at the end of the hypertrophy phase, oh, I don't feel like my numbers went up at all, or I don't feel stronger, I don't feel ready to hit heavy single. And that's okay, because that's not the goal of that cycle.
And I think that's something that's important to understand as you enter that hypertrophy phase, that it's just not the goal. And a lot of people have a hard time understanding that and being okay with the fact that they're just not going to be able to rep out the higher intensity weights that they were doing during the peaking cycle.
Sure. There's a time and a place for both those things, and you just can't be peaking all year round,
Exactly.
or you're risking injury, and you're risking hitting plateaus.
Exactly. And we've talked about off seasons and the importance of it, and kind of like some misconceptions that come with powerlifting and the fact that there's no real delineation between an on and an off season. So this kind of like forces you to take 10 weeks, so a couple months to just chill and not put that much weight on your back and let your tendons and your muscles and your joints take a break from that heavy pounding, heavy loading. Right?
Yeah, and I think just to go back to the peaking cycles of the program too, you see a lot of people talking about how their deadlift doesn't feel great during a peaking cycle. So you'll see at the end of each week, we ask you to go up to what we call a daily max, which means you're going to go as heavy as you can go for that day. And whether that's a PR, whether that's
85, 90%.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The point is you're trying to reach a 10 out of 10 stress level or an RPE 10 for that given day. And we're not expecting you to PR in that program. Again, that's part of the accumulated fatigue of the overreaching program. And then once we deload you and you get some overcompensation, you should ideally be able to hit a PR in your month.
And also, can you briefly talk about, do you give people exact weights, percentages, RPE scales, and why do you choose that method?
Sure. We start off with base percentages, and then each week in the big compound movements, we allow you a range at which you can increase. So if you're having a tough day and you don't feel like you can add weight to what you did the previous week, then you can do the same weight again. If you're feeling good, you can go up by 5 pounds. If you're feeling really good, you can go up by 10 pounds. So ideally, if you're having a great training cycle and you're adding 10 pounds every week, that's going to get heavy really quick, and you'll be able to see a lot of noticeable progress right away.
What should you do if for several weeks you're not able to add any more weight to what you were previously doing?
You should be trying to hit the base percentage from week 1 in that program. So for example, week 1, day 1, squat I think is 70% for 3 sets of 6. And if you can't hit that, say you've been increasing for 3 weeks and in the 4th week you can't hit, whatever your planned progression was, your goal should be to hit that minimum percent of 70% on that day.
And also a point that I want to make is don't be discouraged if that happens to you and after 3 or 4 weeks you kind of like stall and you're not able to add any more weight to the bar. Don't be discouraged because remember that progress in anything that you do in life is never linear and it's normal to have those ups and downs and plateaus. And at the end of the day, the person that makes the most progress is the one that keeps showing up to the gym the most and that tries to give it the biggest effort.
Sure. I think for 99% of people, you're not going to run into too many of those issues. If you're recovering properly, you're going to be able to move through the program and add weight every week. But for those of you who aren't able to do that, it doesn't mean you're doing anything necessarily wrong. You just kind of have to put your faith in us and know that we've structured a program that's going to allow you to perform your best when it's time to have a bump.
Also, what happens if you have known specific areas of weakness that you know that you want to work on? Like, how do you go about that? Are you guys available for like questions or how do you go
of course.
about that?
So we have a members only Facebook group. In the description of that Facebook group, it'll list everyone for every program, all the coaches, who's relevant to tag for what issue. So if you have a question about hybrid powerlifting, you can tag, post a video for technical analysis, or you can just ask whatever question you need and tag either Alex, me, or Steffi.
And we'll very frequently have like in a block a specific accessory that you'll see for anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks before it's rotated. So I feel like that's easily something that we have people all the time in the group say, on my bench, I really feel like I'm getting stuck at lockout all the time. And, when I'm maxing out or hitting, multiple rep schemes. So they'll be like, is this accessory that I'm doing beneficial? In that private members only Facebook group, they'll be able to ask us and we'll be like, you know what, for those next 3 or 4 weeks, let's have you substitute that and add some board presses and stuff like that. So that's, it's a little bit different than a typical template program that you buy that you're not completely sold to always having the same thing, the same accessory, just because we have a big group and a big community of people that you can ask and we can modify and change things for you.
And so you just said that an exercise might be there for 4 weeks before it's rotated. I've seen a lot of people complain about how exercises are the same week after week. How important do you think it's to change these exercises or have complicated exercises? I think it's an important thing to discuss.
Well, you shouldn't be changing the accessories every single week. You want to allow a period of adaptation and overloading that specific accessory. So whether it's something like a lat pull down from one plane and one hand positioning and one grip, you want to allow your body to adapt to that, get the best stimulus over a couple of weeks before then you rotate, you switch to a pronated grip or whatever it may be. It's something as simple as that. So you want to see the same movements, have exposure to the same movements before you then go and rotate it. for a lot of beginners, some people be like, oh, this is boring. I'm doing the same thing over and over. But you want to, get as good at that movement and get the best stimulus as you can as possible.
So no muscle confusion?
No. But that being said, there is a lot of variation in the program.
Absolutely.
But not weekly.
3 to 4 weeks of doing the same exercise. I mean, if you're getting bored of doing that, I mean, I don't think you're ever going to be happy with any program. But, we have, like they said, we have different cycles that focus on different things, and we'll be rotating exercises in and out of those.
And hybrid powerlifting, the first 12 weeks are how many days per week you're training?
5.
And then hypertrophy?
5 as well, but a lot more focus on secondary movements, a lot more focus on accessories and building weaknesses and hypertrophy of the muscles and stuff. So there's like more bodybuilding days and more things like overhead press days, stuff like that.
So to close out, hybrid powerlifting is a program that runs 365 days per year that goes through different cycles depending on what the focus is going to be. It starts with a 12-week peaking cycle, and then it turns into a 10-week hypertrophy program, and then we'll leave the rest for a surprise.
Right now we have I think like 80 weeks of programming in there, and we're always adding more phases. We have tons of members who've gotten to the 60, 70 plus week mark. Every so often, a member will get to week 50, week 60, where there's other peaking phases and other preps in there, but they're like, you know what? I want to go back to week 1 and run that 10-week phase again, and you have those options to be able to do that.
I think another important thing to address is a really frequently asked question that we get about timing for actual meets. If you start hybrid powerlifting week 1, day 1, and you have a meet in 6 weeks, how do we account for that? And it's actually really easy. So as long as you give us heads up with the date of your meet, we can sync your program so that your mock meet will land on the exact same day as your actual meet in real life. So you'll be peak perfectly for the program or for the competition.
So if you guys have any questions, just make sure you write them down below. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel.
And if you don't like anything, keep it to yourself.
Peace.
It's automatic.